Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, I'm Rob and I talk about high-end collectible comics and comics art. Subscribe if that's your kind of thing. I love to talk about comics and I post 1 or 2 videos a week doing just that. In this video, I'm going to cover the recently closed ComicLink Featured Auction. This is mostly going to be me talking about Golden Age Captain America, because there's a bunch of Golden Age Captain America in this auction that I loved. But there's some other really cool stuff, and I'm gonna talk about that as well. That's it, really. That's it for the intro. Let's get started. Green Lantern number 40, CGC 9.8, near mint, highest graded, 1 of 6. As I mentioned in the preview, the last 9/8 of this exceptionally cool book sold in 2015. That's a long time ago, for $3,000. That's half the high for this book in GPA. A copy sold for $6,200 in 2009. So it took 16 years, but there's a new high for this book in 9/8, as this one sold for $6,600. Here's a fun one. Fantastic Four number 55, CGC 9.9 in mint, Boston Pedigree, single highest graded. This sold for $65,555. It last sold in November of 2015, so 10 years ago, for $31,070. Not bad for the consigner, and they had the joy of owning the only mint book in the Fantastic Four run between like 1 and like 196, so that's pretty cool. Prior to that, in 2008, it sold for $16,000. So basically, every time this book sells, it doubles, and it sells every decade. So in the 2030s, it'll be a $150,000 book or something like that. So here's the book. I think it's a really nice looking book. I really couldn't find anything wrong with it, as I said in the preview. I can't believe it's been shipped around 3 times, right? It's sold in 2008, 2015, and now, and it's still held up pretty well. I would drive it wherever I was selling it, by the way. I would not ship this thing because, my God. But yeah, I think it looks pretty good, and a good result. Here's a book I love, Daredevil number 1, CGC 9.6, $96,000. Which is pretty good. So 2022 was a bubble. Last copy sold for $90,000. The high that year was $111,000. So this is right in line with that. It doesn't quite sniff the $150,000 we got in 2021, but that's a real bubble result. So 3 years after the kind of hype-fueled bubble of 2020, 21, and 22, this book is still on par with what it sold for in 2022, which is not bad. And if you look at the trend from 2016 to now, it's really pretty good. We've almost tripled in price recently for this book. So here's a fun one. Daredevil number 2, CGC 9.8, $47,899 for a non-pedigree copy. Why do I say non-pedigree? We'll see in a second. Again, gorgeous book. Really sharp, 9/8. So the Pacific Coast copy, this was Doug's, so sold on July 26, 2012, a date which I remember. I see July 26, 2012, and it's a nice Marvel, and I go, oh, that must have been Doug's book, because I just remember the date, because I've done so many of these recaps and research on Silver Age Marvels that I just know when his auction was off the top of my head. That's where we're at. So the Pacific Coast copy sold in 2012 for $26,290, which was a very strong price. I mean, I remember that. That was crazy. It sold again in 2017, in March of 2017, $44,629. So this sold for a little bit more than the Pacific Coast copy sold for 8 years ago. But as I know, because I did it, and I know because I know a lot of people that do it, there is a premium paid for pedigree copies, especially Marvels, especially Silver Age. I mean, same Golden Age. You know, church copies get a pedigree bump as well. I know not everyone agrees with it, and they're just like, "Oh, the number on the label is the most important thing." It's like, that's fine. That's fine. I'm not going to argue with you about that if that's the way that you approach these things. But there are people, maybe you think I'm dumb people like me, that will pay extra money for a pedigree copy and get excited about them. So I think 47,000, or whatever this thing got, it approaching what the Pacific Coast copy got is actually pretty strong, especially when you look at the results. The last 9/6 sold for $10,000 during the pandemic. So this is more than 4 times the last 9/6, which is pretty strong, especially considering there was probably a bit of a pandemic bump on top of that result. What's this book worth? Mr. Mystery number 12. CGC 1.8 classic cover. That is a great cover. $3,165 at ComicLink, which is just, it's what it's worth. It's a $3,000 book because it sold previously for $3,000. So, and then, yeah, this guy needs some Visine and some goggles. And again, what is the 1.8? I haven't looked at this. I still haven't. I'm lazy. I haven't looked at the grader's notes. There must be something just insane about this book because the front cover, it looks a little dingy, but you're buying this book for the cover, and the cover is complete. There's no missing pieces. There's no nothing. Maybe the whole spine split or something like that. I don't know. It's in a CGC holder. It's a perfect classic cover CGC holder type book. Pep Comics number 22, CGC 9.6, Near Mint Plus. Single highest numerical CGC graded for the issue. I think this is cheap. There is a formula, and I haven't actually worked it out because it's hard to work out unless you have the book in hand. There's a formula that you're supposed to apply. I don't know if you've heard this, where you're supposed to value a restored book. You're supposed to basically figure out what it would have been before it was restored, and that's your baseline value, right? So if it was a good, and then it was restored up to a 9.6, because this is extensive, so you would pay the good price. That would be a fair price to pay for it. I don't know. I don't know what this once was, so I can't really figure it out. But you really need to have the book in hand or have a really good restoration report where they talk about everything that they did, which isn't always the case. Sometimes you just get, these days, sometimes you just get a book in a purple holder, which is a bummer. So, but I think this is cheap. I feel like this is cheap. What I know is cheap. Silver Surfer number 1 is CGC 9.8, John G. Fantuccio pedigree, highest graded 1 of 10, which still surprises me. This book sold for $70,500, which is crummy. The last 2 copies of this book sold for $132,000, including a Boston copy and another pedigree copy in 2024. Does anyone know what this sold for originally? I haven't done a deep dive because I can't even pinpoint exactly which of the ComicLink auctions this sold in. So to find a book in the ComicLink auction archives, it has to have been listed in their kind of showcased page for the featured auction, and then you have to kind of just search. You just Control F on that page and you look for Silver Surfer. So I don't even know when it sold. I should have saved. I didn't think of it until it was far too late. Saving all of the ComicLink emails, because you can get a lot of information from those emails. You can't get a lot of information off their site. So, but yeah, I'm sure the consignor made money because that was 10 or 15 years ago. So this book wouldn't have been $70,000. But just in relation to $132,000, $70,500 is not good. And it's a shame because it's a really nice book, and I love the John G. Fantuccio pedigree. Cool guy. He's one of us, right? Comic fandom, extraordinaire, right? Artist, collector, incredible original owner books. I don't know. Somebody got a bargain. Starling Comics number 49, CGC 9.6, highest graded 1 of 6, $90,000. Take that book in. $90,000 is pretty good against non-pedigree copies. So the last one sold, there were 2 that sold in 2018, which is a while ago, but still. One sold for $64,000, and another copy sold for $54,970. So it's a pretty big increase since 2018 for this book. That said, you cannot beat the church copies, which sold for $101,575 in 2016. And I talked about it, pedigree bumps. If this resold, it would sell for more than $90,000 for sure. It would certainly sell for more than $101,000 because people would get excited because it's the church copy of a classic Shamberg cover. Okay, I promised Captain America's. Here they are. Captain America Comics number 1, CGC 7.0, CVA Exceptional, $250,420. Strong result, really, right in line with what the last one sold for in 2025, $266,814. And really, these books aren't even that far off of some bubble results. So 2023 and 2022, it was between $300,000 and $339,000. And so $266,000 is actually pretty good against some of those results. Certainly, some books have not done as well between now and that bubble era. So, yeah. And this is an attractive copy. The only problem, I talked about it earlier, the only problem I have is the upper left-hand corner. There's some color loss. Otherwise, it's really sharp for a 7.0. Captain America Comics number 10, CGC 9.2, $21,000. One of the top 3 graded overall. The San Francisco copy, a 9.6, just sold for $40,000. So the consignor has to be happy with $21,000 for a 9.6. I think it's a great result. And it's a great looking book. The only thing you can complain about here, and I don't mind markings on the cover, but there is that A in the A, which some people might nitpick about, but I don't care. I think that's a great looking cover. Last, Simon Kirby. Captain America Comics number 32, CGC 9.6, Chicago Pedigree, single highest graded, $31,000. I love this Sid Shores cover. So $31,000 is not bad. You had this incredible Chicago Pedigree Captain America Comics number 32 for 23 years. You bought it for $8,711 in 2002. And and you made some money when you sold it. That's the way it should go. You should enjoy owning incredible comic books and then make at least a little bit of money when you resell them. And yeah, nice book. The only thing you can complain about here is it's a little skewed. So the Captain America is not horizontal, perfectly level. But I'm not going to complain about that. And I love that cover. Of course, if this was Shamberg, there'd be another 40 planes, 4,000 people on the beach, and you'd be able to see who was wearing glasses and who wasn't. Then there'd be 45 more boats in the water. But still, it's really dynamic. It's a great action cover. Captain America Comics number 33, CGC 9.4, Crowley Pedigree, $32,000. And this Brenner Pass cover, you have to love it. I mean, this one's amazing. I love Captain America diving into, just right into the fray. He's not afraid. He's like, I got a shield. They have machine guns and whatever they've got, but I'm all set. I'm Captain America. And even Bucky's like, yeah, whatever. I'm with Captain America. Captain America Comics number 37, CGC 9.6, Crowley Pedigree, $87,000. Very cool book. This is one of a couple of books we're going to compare to Promise Collection. So this one sold for $87,000. CGC 9.2, Promise Collection sold for $87,000. The book we're talking about here sold for $87,069 and is 0.4 better. Which buy is better? Clearly, whoever bought this Crowley Pedigree copy has to be happy. And whoever bought the Promise Collection Pedigree, hopefully, is going to sit on this book for a while because, the two results playing off of each other do not set, a great precedent for this Promise Collection book selling for a bunch. We know the Promise Collection went bonkers. Some of the prices were insane, and this is clearly one. Because if a 9.6 of this book only sold for $69 more than this, then that's a data point you can't ignore. And it is a great copy. I mean, man, Alex Shamberg, so good. Captain America Comics number 41, CGC 9.2, near mint minus, Davis Crippen Pedigree, D copy. One of the top 5 graded overall, $8,418. I love this cover. I talked about how much TNT is on the cover, and and it remains there, and it would do a lot of damage to that bridge. But we've got Captain America on the scene, so it's all good. Captain America Comics number 44, CGC 9.2, Crowley Pedigree. One of the top 3 graded overall. $5,100. Here's another comparison between a Promise Collection result and a result from this recent auction. So 8.5 copy of this book sold for $9,600 in 2021. And this copy sold for $5,100 and is a 9.2. Obviously, it's an old holder, so there is some concern there. But honestly, I don't see anything that would dissuade me from this book. There is some paper loss in the upper left-hand corner, but that's clearly being seen as loss from the production of the book. And otherwise, it's very clean. I think it's a really nice copy. So would I prefer this or the Promise Collection copy? I think they're both pretty nice, but I think I would actually like this copy better, the Crowley copy. So I think somebody got another good deal, and I worry again about a certain Promise Collection result. Not all of them were bad. I mean, honestly, some of them were great, but and the books are great, but some of those results were like head scratching. Captain America Comics number 56, CGC 9.2, Crowley Pedigree, $3,855. Yeah, this is one of those ones where Captain America is back from the war, and he's just fighting crime on the streets of New York. I love this subway scene. I really think it's cool. And the Captain Americas are over, so let's take a look at a couple more books and end this one on a high note. So Superman number 14, CGC 9.0, one of my favorite books in the whole wide world. This sold for $43,000. The last few copies of this book have sold for, in 2019, $31,200, $26,400. That's 2019. And a copy sold for $17,017 in 2007. I think this book is a bargain at any price because actually it's gorgeous. It's really nice. And if you've never had this book in hand, find one at a convention and take a look at it because it's one of the books that you really need to see in person because there's illustrations. You can see them in the scans, but they show up much better in hand. There are illustrations in the background that are very light, and it's so cool. So I love it. I love this cover. I love this book, and I think it's a good result. And I love to talk about mint books. Ultimate Fallout number 4, CGC 9.9, single highest graded, $31,001. Is this a good result for the consigner? Yes. It's like 30 to 35 times the price of a 9.8. That seems pretty good to me. That's really strong. And the only piece of original art I covered here, and I'm going to, praise Jim Lee again. I always praise Jim Lee because he's awesome. $60,000 for this intense image, as ComicLink says. Intense image of Frank Castle in Vietnam. So I love this. I was working at a comic shop at this point, and I remember Punisher War Journal coming out. Carl Potts was a great inker for Jim Lee. He wasn't quite the same iconic inker that Scott Williams was, but as you can see, it's a really nice looking image. And I like the Carl Potts inks. Now, obviously, once Scott Williams got on the scene, things changed and became iconic, but these are still very cool. So really cool art. And with that, we're done. I'm sorry this one took a little while. I've recorded this 3 times, and the recording failed. Don't ask. I don't need to talk about the pain that I've had recording videos this week. But this is the 3rd time I've been through this one, and this one is successful. So, So I'm going to be busy this weekend trying to play catch up on the videos that I've been trying to release. I have a podcast episode I need to record, and another video on the Heritage Signature Auction that's closing right now as I record this. And then I need to get on the ball because the Comic Connect auction is ending next week. So I'm going to be busy, busy, busy. I also have a couple of special videos that are in the works. I'm working on the classic covers video that I've been promising for a while. There are slides and data being accumulated right now. I have a video in the works on the Aurora Comics Pedigree, which is I'm returning to the Comics Pedigree deep dives. And so I'm going to keep you guys on your toes with new content over the next couple of weeks. It's going to be fun. I'm going to be busy. And I'll see you in the next one. Thank you. Bye.